Starmer's days are numbered. It's surely only a matter of time before he is turfed out by his own party. It's unimaginable how Keir Starmer can't afford to buy clothes for himself and his wife. This is Keir back in 2021, berating the then Boris over some wallpaper.
Asked to donate £58,000 to help repay for the cost of this refurbishment. Can the Prime Minister, if he's so keen to answer, confirm, did Lord Brownlow make that payment for that purpose?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think I've answered this question several times now, and the answer is that I have covered the costs. I have met the requirements that I've been obliged to meet in full, and when it comes to the taxpayer and the costs of Number 10 Downing Street, it was the previous Labour government. I think Tony Blair racked up a bill of £350,000, and I think what the people of this country want to see is minimising taxpayer expense. They want to see a government that's focused on their needs and delivering more homes for the people of this country and cutting council tax, which is what we're doing. And it's on that basis that I think people are going to judge our parties on May the 6th.
Keir Starmer.
Answer the question. That's what the public scream at their televisions every PMQs. Answer the question. The Prime Minister hasn't answered the question. He knows he hasn't answered the question. He never answers the question. The Prime Minister will be aware that he's required to declare any benefits that relate to his political activities, including loans or credit arrangements, within 28 days. 28 days, Prime Minister, yes. He will also know that any donation must be recorded in the register of ministers' interests, and that under the law, any donation of over £500 to a political party must be registered and declared. So the rules are very clear. The Electoral Commission now think that there are reasonable grounds to suspect that an offence or offences may have occurred. That's incredibly serious.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Starmer, it is very serious. After all that talk about Boris, and less than 2 months into his leadership, he has already received more tickets and gifts than any other recent leader. He has the audacity to defend scrapping winter fuel payments for millions of pensioners, but publicly cries about not being able to watch the Arsenal game unless he gets donated tickets. I can't go into the stands because of security reasons. Therefore, if I don't accept a gift of hospitality, I can't go to a game, Starmer said. Never going to an Arsenal game again because I can't accept hospitality is pushing it a bit far, he said, without explaining why he couldn't pay for a hospitality ticket himself. It's hard to actually believe that they would wheel out Lammy of all people for some damage limitation. Lammy is a bumbling fool at the best of times. Possibly the last person I'd look to for damage control. Let's listen to what he has to say.
What are our viewers meant to think when they see that the Prime Minister didn't declare outfits that were given to his wife by a wealthy donor properly? What are they meant to think of that?
Well, look, I would say to them that the Prime Minister did declare funds that he received from Lord Ali. He's then gone back to the Parliamentary Commissioner to further check details on some of those funds that have made their way to his wife. So he has done that, and he is seeking to comply with the rules. So this is not an issue of transparency. He is attempting to be transparent. The truth is, in our system, I've just come back from the United States, where US presidents and First Ladies have a huge budget paid for by the taxpayer so that they look their best on behalf of the US people. We don't have that system over here. The truth is that successive prime ministers, unless you're a billionaire like the last one, do rely on donations, political donations, so they can look their best, both in the hope of representing the country if you're in the opposition, or indeed as prime minister. That's the situation.
So Lammy thinks a man whose income was over £400,000 last year needs either a taxpayer-funded budget or donations in order to look their best. Lammy, can you get any more ridiculous? Starmer has received more donations than any other Prime Minister since he has been in power. How can we trust a Prime Minister that is so focused on lining his own pockets and those of his political allies? Keir Starmer managed to trick a lot of people into voting for him. He campaigned on the grounds that we would get change. He always said he wanted an end to cronyism from the Conservative Party. but he has turned out to be the biggest hypocrite in British politics. He now quite rightly gets booed everywhere he goes, and is quite possibly the most hated Prime Minister ever. One person who wasn't fooled is Andrew Neil. He knew back in 2020 exactly what Keir Starmer was all about.
Why haven't you declared all the major donors who are funding your leadership campaign?
Well, at the beginning of the campaign, the Labour Party set out the rules that we should all comply with, and they briefed us on it. And they involve doing the necessary checks on any donations, and then passing it to the parliamentary authorities so that they can be published. And I'm following those rules.
But that's process.
That's not process, that's the
you're
rules.
following the process, but there's a bigger principle at stake, that Labour Party members who are being asked to vote for you should know who's bankrolling your campaign.
That is why the Labour Party set up those rules.
But you won't tell us.
The Labour Party rules say, carry out the checks, which we have to carry out, and I've got a compliance team doing that. Once you're satisfied the checks are carried out and the donations are proper in order, they go to the parliamentary authorities who put them on the parliamentary website so that everybody can see them. I've been following that procedure. That is exactly the parliamentary rules.
But the other candidates in this contest have published who is bankrolling their campaign. You seem to be hiding behind this process. Why won't you simply tell us tonight who are your 5 biggest donors?
Andrew, how can you say I'm hiding behind a process when it's the Labour Party process? The Labour Party, beginning
because you're hiding behind the process.
No, the Labour Party said...
Why don't you do what the other candidates do and tell... Don't Labour members have a right, as they decide whether to vote for you or not, they want to know where your money's coming from?
I've been asked that many times. I've said it's coming from trade unions, from crowdfunding, from individual donations.
Who's your biggest donor?
It's coming from those 3. One of my biggest donors was put up on the website, I think, yesterday.
Right, that's one of the lawyer.
Yeah.
That's the law. But who are your 5 biggest donors?
Well,
you haven't announced. You've only announced about £125,000 worth of donations. This campaign costs a lot more than that. Doesn't transparency just demand? I mean, it's causing you a problem. You could solve that tonight by saying, when I leave here, everybody who's bankrolled my campaign, I will make public.
Well, of course, Andrew.
But you're not going to do that.
Andrew, please hear me out.
So just to be clear, who's giving you £100,000?
This line of attack on me that I'm following the rules, which the Labour Party at the beginning of the exercise said, right, how was...
Okay, who's giving you more than 100,000?
The Labour Party at the beginning of the exercise said, these are the rules as to what you've got to check.
Who's giving